Today, Baltic coasts will lead us to the eastern German peninsula Darss. The gold of the Baltic Sea lies hidden here, amber. In autumn, filigree cranes meet in the tens of thousands on their way to Africa. The route they choose continues to captivate scientists. We pass the islands off the coast of western Pomerania and carry on to Ruegen, the island of never-ending beaches and world-famous chalk cliffs. Since the time of the Vikings, shipping routes have been connecting the Baltic shores. Our trip begins northeast of the Hanseatic town of Rostock. It will lead us via Darss and the island Hiddensee to the town Stralsund and the island Ruegen. The Darss coastline owes her bizarre beauty to the last ice age. During this glacial period, the enchanting brackwater landscapes were created. Freshwater and saltwater have come together to create a captivating world of blue and green lagoons.
Unsere Seesboote.
These are old fishing boats that have been used to fish here for hundreds of years.
Peter Zobel spends all his spare time sailing through the brackwater. After years of repairs, he has set his old-timers' sails again. 40 years ago, these boats were still used to catch flounders and codfish.
The big catch was useless unless you were one of the first guys back in the harbor to sell it. Well, that's why these ships were built for speed.
The fisherman's racing boat of old is still a treasured means of transport.
To get around without the help of a motor is great. There's the quiet on board, the sailing itself, the work that goes into it. It all heightens the fascination.
The ground sails are typical for these traditional boats. They obtained their colour back in the 15th century, when a mix of suet and cod liver was applied to the sails as a protective layer. Jürgen Gründling is searching for amber along the cliffs of Wustrow. A strong northeaster is stirring up the waves.
I never know where I'll find something. But often the seagulls show me a good spot. I take the scoop to the surf, and if I'm lucky, there is some amber amongst the shells and stones.
Amber, the gold of the Baltic Sea. The 72-year-old has been after it since his childhood. The fossilized liquid is washed ashore during strong swells. There are only few who know how to find amber. It hides among the seaweeds, mussels and stones scooped up by the amber collector. Over the past decades, he has developed the keen sense of a true collector. He has found some small pieces of amber today. The art of finding amber starts by interpreting the weather correctly.
I already start listening up the moment they are forecasting a strong northerly. The moment a decent storm has hit the coast, I'm out there looking for what may have washed up. I look out for thunder chalks, sea urchins and the rarest of them all, the clutterstones.
Jürgen Gründling's cabinet of curiosities holds the most miraculous of treasures. It is the booty of a long collector's life. The children from the neighbourhood love to come by for a visit. The stone collector teaches them how to make jewellery out of the sea's treasures. The pensioner would love people to realise just how many treasures are to be found right on their doorsteps. It's the small and simple things provided by nature that fascinate Grundling. Once a week, he puts up his stand on the beachfront promenade. He donates his earnings for good causes.
Gut so? Dreh dich mal. Wenn jetzt mal ein Sturm ist, müsst ihr mir mal helfen, ein paar neue Steine suchen, ne? Ja. Macht ihr das?
Ja. Mach ich gerne.
Will you come back and help me again?
Wieder basteln kommen.
Ja!
Das Meer sortiert nach
The sea sorts objects according to their weight and size. So large embers will be found among larger stones and shells.
Zwingen kann man es nicht.
No, you can't force it, neither can I. I'm always surprised to see what the sea bestows on me. They're just lying there all of a sudden, God knows why. Some of us believe that Neptune, the god of the sea himself, distributes them amongst us.
Jürgen Grundling believes in nature's cycle of receiving and releasing. Living like Robinson Crusoe has always been his biggest dream. The giant plants in his garden amaze every visitor. The little paradise helps a bit against his longing for Indonesia. Grundling became the honorary member of an indigenous tribe there years ago. Since then, he goes to visit his tribesmen every 2 years. He takes along the collected donations from his amber sales.
I give up the beautiful nature here and travel around. My native Indonesian friends protect me and take me everywhere. If they can see that I'm happy, they are happy too.
Grundling could only dream of the southern seas during the times of the Cold War in Eastern Germany. After the fall of the wall, he packed his bags and just went for it. Somehow, he ended up in the jungles of Sumatra, where he met the tribe which became his second family. Ahrenshoop is a small fishing village that artists discovered for themselves in the 19th century. Due to the clear light and the wild landscapes, both painters and sculptors settled here. It became a true colony for artists. Even today, those with an artistic streak are drawn to the steep coast. Claudia Glindermann grew up in Ahrenshoop. She has been on horseback since she was 10 years old.
Horses are loyal animals. They notice if you're not feeling well. They give me calm and strength at the same time. I feel free once I'm in the saddle.
An old custom has been retained here. Once a year, the village people compete with each other on horseback to become the so-called King of Barrels. The goal of the contest is to completely destroy a herring barrel. Last year, there was a huge surprise when a woman won the contest for the first time in history. Claudia, the first Queen of Barrels. Claudia has been studying archaeology far away from her village for 2 years now, but her home by the sea is of great importance to her. She would never miss out on barrel beating, the most important annual festivity in her village. She's dead set on defending her title as Barrel Queen this year. At the beach, Claudia gets her stallion Fuchs to work up a sweat. The horse must be at his physical peak on the big day that's only 2 weeks off.
Galloping along the beach is the most wonderful thing there is for me. I can let go of the reins and feel free. It's simply fantastic.
Claudia is tense when the longed-for day has finally dawned. Fuchs has pulled a tendon and she's about to compete on a borrowed horse. She has never even sat on it before, but there's no time to rack her brains about that now. Every fibre of her body is focused on one thing alone now, to smash the barrel in front of her.
The rider succeeding at battering the last piece of the herring barrel will be the king. You just need to deal the final blow to that barrel and tear down the last piece of wood.
As the acting barrel queen, Claudia has the honour of the first bash.
Some men manage to be the barrel king for 2 years in a row. It would be lovely if a woman were to achieve the same. I would get a kick out of that, as men always argue that women cannot hit as hard as them. It would really teach them.
The herring barrel has a long history in the region. During the Swedish reign 200 years ago, the local fishermen were forced to pay their tax with herrings. When the Swedish were gone, the locals celebrated their freedom by smashing up the hated herring barrels. It takes hours for the barrel planks to come down. Claudia still has a fair chance to win, but her horse is exhausted. In the end, Ahrenshoop has a new barrel king, a man again. Claudia has to hand over her sash, as is the tradition's law. She's set on competing again next year. Claudia isn't the type of woman that resigns easily. Tourists love the smooth Baltic Sea. The gentle continental waters are ideal for family holidays. But the coast dwellers have seen its ugly side too. On days such as this, with the storm force clocking in at a solid 8, the Baltic Sea shows its rough and furious side. If a storm is sweeping over Ahrenshoop, one is sure to meet Lutzgerlach out here on the cliffs. It's a dangerous place to be in, as parts of the coastline can easily tear away. However, Lutz is set to record the voices of the sea. Equipped with his mobile recording studio, he collects the different sounds of the coast to work them into his music.
The sea sounds different every day. The tone pitch of the sea, the frequencies, the disruptions, and the way it all works together can be an inspiration for every composer and musician out there. Actually, you could convert it straight into music, or at least use elements of it in your compositions.
Is always on the lookout for new inspirations. This is what made him turn his back on his hometown Berlin and open a music studio in the small town here. He has found his ideal working environment in a place others venture to for a holiday.
I've always searched for silence, not complete silence, but for the sounds of nature. Once you start exploring this landscape with your ears instead of your eyes, you'll discover a variety of new sounds. The wind, the waves, the sounds of the sea really, but also more subtle sounds of nature like the frogs croaking and the birds singing. I only began noticing these sounds once I had moved here. As a metropolitan, you'd hardly notice them.
Lutz has planned a truly remarkable event for today, a concert of natural sounds.
The grand piano goes here. Turn it a bit to the side so that the latch faces the audience. Yeah, that's the spot where the piano players will be seated.
Natural sounds, such as the wind and the breaking of the waves, will be the stars of tonight's performance.
You won't get this sound indoors, even if you played in the world's best concert hall. I sit at the grand piano and look up at the boundless sea. I've got the sky above my head and the sound of waves in my ears.
Zurücklegen, zu einem solchen Konzert zu kommen.
But nature's moods are fickle. The breeze works into a storm. Bad luck for Lutz and his audience.
The intention of my work, Natural Sounds, is to mix actual sounds of nature with those made by humans. And today the natural ones, the wind in particular, would have been too dominating. Rain was coming up too, even though the weather forecast had not predicted it. I'm feeling pretty stressed already because we have to relocate on such a short notice now.
The concert is being relocated to a church. The sexton has spontaneously decided to make the church available as a concert hall for the event. The concert is sold out, as always. Lutz Gerlach's music has struck a chord with many of the locals. A few dozen follow the artist to every concert. Our journey carries on. Washed-up sandbanks have connected over the centuries to become one large peninsula. Our route now leads us from Ahrenshoop to Prerow, a popular seaside resort. Extraordinary landscapes open as we fly along the coast. Images that could have been created by a master of the abstract arts. The coast and the sea embrace each other in a finely woven net of water, lagoons, and strips of land. The colourful front doors catch every visitor's eye. In the old days, the maritime imagery on the doors showed that the owner was a captain or a wealthy ship owner. Today, they are back in fashion and adorn the houses for a minimum of €5,000 apiece. The doors are manufactured by hand in a local workshop. The intricate carvings cannot be made with machines. Every door is unique, created according to the client's individual wishes, and with a love for details.
These doors have a long tradition. They have been present here on the Darss for over 200 years now. They stand out because of their bold colors and the many carved ornaments that embellish them. You're not going to find these doors anywhere else in the world. These doors are so special because their ornaments hold secrets. Magical symbols lie hidden within the decorations.
The brothers Dirk and René Roloff are the last German carpenters that still manufacture these doors by hand here. The family business is 175 years old. For 6 generations, their forefathers have passed on their secrets of the special carpenting trade.
Almost every old door here, and also every new door, has images of the sun on it. A half-sun represents the rising sun, for example. The sun symbolizes the recurring light, the sun that returns to us every day. There are many images that prevent bad spirits from entering the house. Sometimes they're so subtle that an outsider would never recognize them.
The most popular symbol is the bunch of tulips. You will see it in 100 variations, but they all represent the tree of life.
Every piece that we build here is thought through. This is important for us as we want to convey an emotion in the end.
The next generation of carpenters is beginning to learn the tricks of the trade at an early age. The sons and daughters of the Horloff brothers spend a lot of time in the workshop, being taught how to work with wood.
If you ask my little one what he wants to be when he's a grown-up, he's going to say he'll become a carpenter. There's no question about that.
Every time my daughter walks through the village, she points to the doors and she shouts, "My daddy built that."
It would be sad for things to simply end. There's too much involved here, too much would be lost. It would be a great shame, really.
Our route leads us further eastwards, away from Darss. We're flying back to the mainland, to the bird sanctuary Gross-Mohrdorf. During autumn, up to 70,000 cranes from all over Northern Europe meet here. The rich soil provides them with the food needed to continue their arduous journey.
To see these filigree birds and watching them perform their mating dance is amazing. The way they rise up into the air, the way they jump, they are just such elegant birds and so beautiful to look at.
Ornithologist Silke Friggin is walking us to the hidden places where the cranes are resting. The birds like to stay in the shallow waters. 4 years ago, Silke herself arrived as a migratory bird from southern Germany.
I'm originally from Bavaria, but we used to go to the coast during my school holidays. I actually always dreamt of living close to the sea.
The cranes are still doing their rounds searching for food. But now, as the sun is setting, they're returning to their resting places. Silke has been fascinated by bird life ever since she was a little girl. Now she has made her passion her work. She recently finished her doctorate in biology. She's studying the breeding behavior of her favorite birds.
It's always a very special event for me when the cranes arrive. To see this endless number of birds approach, from Scandinavia, Poland, everywhere really, just to rest here, that's an amazing scene to watch.
As the cranes fly southwards, they cover incredibly long distances, oftentimes several hundred kilometers in a day. They will spend the winter in southern France, Spain and northern Africa. They find their way thanks to an internal compass that is aligned with the magnetic fields of the Earth.
Cranes have got this typical group formation. It really looks like an arrow when they fly. Every time I see them, I have to think of our highways and all the accidents that happen there. And in the sky, we have hundreds and thousands of cranes flying and they never ever collide with each other.
Silke is working in the chemistry lab of the station. She's investigating whether all the eggs laid by a female crane share the same unique pattern. 2 of the eggshells she has collected show a surprisingly similar pattern. Could both of them have been laid by the same female? To find out, Silke is going to analyze the genetic fingerprints found in the eggshells. She takes a piece of the shell and crushes it in a test tube. She adds a fluid that will extract the DNA from the eggshells. The blue color helps to show the genetic code of the eggshell. Silke needs to dissolve the DNA from both of the eggs to find out whether or not their genetic fingerprint is identical. If so, she can prove that the eggs belong to the same mother crane. The next morning, Silke is on her way to the crane's resting grounds. She wants to watch the departure of the group she has been studying for the last days. The number of cranes has recovered over the past years, mainly because of the protected areas and the tireless work of bird activists like Silke. We continue our own flight towards the car-free island Hiddensee. Traces of the last ice age can be found here. 12,000 years ago, the Baltic evolved from the glacial runoff. Only the protruding mountain ridges remained. One of them has formed the island Hiddensee. The sea's current causes the island to grow in the south while losing land in the north. The island is basically wandering off to the south, taking steps of 30 centimeters every year. These houses will have reached the bottom of the ocean in a couple of thousand years. The lighthouse Dornbusch, which means thornbush in English, is situated at the northern tip of Hiddensee. Even though the lighthouse was built over 100 years ago, it still performs its duty today. That is, if the burner is functioning, which currently isn't the case. Jörg Kubus sets off to replace the broken bulb and check the system.
To begin with, we are going to have a look at the state of the whole machinery. I've got to check the optics and clean the lens. I have to make sure that the light can be seen far out at sea.
The job of the lighthouse keeper no longer exists in Germany. All lighthouses are telecommanded, but it is important to have a mechanic check the station from time to time. Window cleaning high above the ground can be fun, as long as the sun is shining. He renews the vapor discharge lamp in no time. The burnished glass bundles the light in such an intense manner that it is still visible from afar.
Back in the old days, a lighthouse keeper lived close by, but the times of heavy maintenance are over. But we still need to check on things up here. That's why we swing by regularly.
Many view lighthouses as relics that have become redundant in times of satellite navigation and radar systems. But Jörg sees lighthouses as an important preventative measure should all the electronics fail aboard a ship. Lighthouses provide safe orientation around the clock. And they belong to the coastal landscape just as much as seagulls do. We return to the mainland. Leaving Hiddensee, we are heading for the old Hanseatic city, Stralsund. Stralsund's preserved Hanseatic architecture is unique. Her picturesque old town has been declared a World Heritage Site by the UNESCO. Three large cathedrals define the city's skyline. They are a reminder of the golden age of the Hanseatic League. The modern building of the Oceaneum on the harbour front is an aquarium with international appeal. Marine biologist Nicole Kube is the curator of the Oceaneum. She decides which animals will be displayed in the big aquariums. This morning, the feeding of the Baltic Sea fish is scheduled. She is an enthusiastic diver and will feed them herself.
The large tank is a great challenge due to its size and depth. It's really difficult to feed all the fish the right amounts they need. You need to be quite inventive, actually.
Deswegen muss man sich da ein bisschen was einfallen lassen.
Diving in the tank might look like a lot of fun, but it's a very tricky and hazardous dive to take. All our divers here received special training. There's so many fish in there, and you need to keep an eye on all of them. It's crucial that the diver knows what he's doing, and it's easy to panic in there, especially if you get bitten. This is no job for sissies.
Every species contained in the tank has a different feeding habit. Nicole Kube needs to ensure that the slowfish also get their share.
You know, the giltheads are the real troublemakers in there. It's a bream species, and we have around 100 of them in the tank. They're quite aggressive, and I need to keep my eyes peeled for them. They try every trick in the book to snatch food out of my fingers. I have to hide it well. The stingrays, on the other hand, know where they have to swim in order to be fed.
Wo sie dann hinschwimmen müssen, dass sie was zu fressen kriegen.
Nicole Kube was 15 years old when she started to dive. She has gone on countless underwater expeditions and has caught many of the fish here herself. Her pride and joy is the ocean sunfish, a peculiar creature that appears to have come from another planet. Most visitors stare at it in utter amazement.
It's something really special to be able to display ocean sunfish. You need a very large tank, like the one we have. It has an almost round shape and is very, very deep. Only few aquariums have this kind of tank. Most just build a riff or some shipwreck into the pools. And they obviously work with warm water. We have cold water, which is very important. The ocean sunfish is the largest fish in the world. He can reach up to 3 meters in length. Once he has reached that size, his skin will be 15 centimeters thick. He will look like a living fossil because of that. This is simply a fish that is rarely seen in aquariums. There are maybe 10 aquariums in the world displaying these fish. And that's why we are so proud to be one of them.
Für uns ein ganz besonderes Tier und eine unserer Hauptattraktionen.
Whilst other aquariums love to exhibit exotic fish and big sharks, the Oceaneum has very consciously decided to put the focus on Germany's native underwater world. The Baltic Sea's fish may not be as colourful as the inhabitants of the coral reefs in the South Seas, but whoever visits the Oceaneum will be surprised by the variety of native creatures. This bridge connects Stralsund with the southwestern tip of the island of Ruegen. It is here that 200,000 tons of concrete and steel were transformed into Germany's longest bridge. Along this bridge, the journey carries on to Cape Arcona on the island of Ruegen. Cape Arcona is a rock plateau high above the sea. It's a popular place for excursions. The old radio tower from 1927 is one of its landmarks. From here, it amplified Germany's marine radio service during World War II. Ruegen is Germany's largest island and famous for its long sandy beaches. They offer far more than a place to splash about in the sea.
You can get everything to fly. It all boils down to the scale adjustment. You could ultimately get a door to fly if you would just adjust the scale accordingly and make sure that the kite string is going to hold. So yeah, you can make anything fly eventually. It depends on the wind force, the strength of the kite string, and ultimately your own endurance. There's a reason kite flying is considered a sport. You'll notice just how much of a sport activity this is when the wind is bad.
Bernd Möller has fulfilled his dream. He used to work as an administration clerk, but living from his passion had always been an alluring option. Today, he earns his living with the building and selling of kites. Even in his private time, he is drawn to the beach to experiment around with his homemade models.
I
used to own a kite just like any other kid did. I made them myself and let them fly around a bit. Naturally, as I grew older, there were other things on my mind. And one day I was standing in a kite shop, lifted one up and thought, heck, let me just try it again. That's when I bought my first stunt kite. Went down to the beach and immediately knew there was going to be more to that. By now I've got like 50 or 60 kites in storage, and depending on the seasons and the wind, I'll take them out and down to the beach.
Bernd Möller hones the flight quality and aerodynamics until every kite takes off. His stunt kites have grown longer and more beautiful each year.
I'm currently into big kites, like this tailed red Delta kite. I've actually sewn it up myself. It has an overall length of 12 meters. It looks absolutely stunning up there and has a great stunt potential. People at the beach will stop in their tracks and watch. I can let my mind wander as I fly a kite on a nice afternoon. I can calm down, I engage in some soul searching, and from this I gain new strength and develop new ideas.
Ruegen's impressive cliff line stretches over 15 kilometers. Heavy storms cause rockfalls. Sometimes a whole section will be swallowed by the sea. The white chalk cliffs tower up to a height of 120 meters. The soft sedimentary rock is 70 million years old and was a popular subject for the painters of German Romanticism. The most renowned rock spur is called the King's Throne. In 1715, the Swedish King Karl surveyed a naval battle against the Danish here, a battle that he lost. The Baltic Sea is a massive shipwreck site. It is assumed to be the largest in the world. Wars, accidents, and storms have sealed the fate of thousands of ships and their crews. The dim light reveals the remains of a cargo ship. Its cracked hull is covered in rust. Starfish and algae have found a new home on the shipwreck. The secrets of the underwater world remain largely unexplored. The ship's hull has become an artificial reef for sea anemones. The oldest and fastest ferry connection between Germany and Sweden is that between Sassnitz and Trelleborg. She also connects the railway networks of the two countries. The ferry's hull contains 700 meters of railway tracks. Captain Milzow has been traveling along this route for over 20 years. The trip through the Baltic Sea takes 4 hours.
I cannot imagine a choleric working as a captain. You have to have a certain air of calm. In order to prove yourself in an emergency situation, you need to be able to approach difficulties without panicking. Together with your crew, it's all about assuring your passengers they are safe here on your ship.
The connection over the Cadet Channel is known as the Royal Route, one of the most well-travelled shipping routes in the world, and one of the most dangerous waterways. Captain Milzow is responsible for the safety of 900 passengers.
The amount of traffic in the Baltic Sea has increased dramatically over the past years. If I notice that a colleague isn't sticking to these rules for whatever reason, I need to act very fast to avoid collision. This means that, yes, on the one hand, there are rules to follow. On the other hand, you must always stick with your wits, concentrate and act when necessary.
The Baltic has always connected the people at its shores. It is a home few could imagine to leave.
I cannot imagine living anywhere where I cannot reach the sea within half an hour. I'm very connected to the Baltic Sea's coastal region. This is my home, and I will never leave it.